Hey guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles, here from the UK in the middle of a storm. It is very cold outside, there's been snow occasionally, but I'm here with you to break down the 10th episode of Blue Period. Before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed. I am starting to work on my final wrap-up of the season, one of my top 3 anime of the fall 2021 period, and what's coming out next season, because it's a very interesting season with a lot of big giants coming our way, a lot of things are returning, but there's also a lot of little titles coming our way and new titles, and there's one in particular in the new title section that I think I'm definitely going to be breaking down. If you want to find out what that is, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out. There's also a Discord channel too for you to get notified whenever videos go up on the channel. This is the episode I was very nervous about. It's a episode I was aware was coming our way, a sensitive topic, and I was very nervous on how the anime would handle it, because so far it has been speeding through. It's been going quite pacey. I was worried that they would speed through it. It does feel like it was speeded through, but I think what they've done is at least respectable to the characters. So let's get going. I do like the flickering, when you see Yuka's face, the surprise when Yuguchi actually has gotten onto the train. Whether it's the eye flick or the wobbling the animation, I think it's really quite nice, because the simple shock of actually realizing that, wow, I really wasn't expecting you to call the bluff. You got on the train kind of thing. And the realization that starts to dawn upon Yaguchi of the actual gravity of the situation. You're not actually going to the beach for a bad reason now, are you? And Yuka initially playing it off, but it's just that realization coming across Yaguchi that something is very seriously wrong, and Yuka definitely needs to talk or get something off their chest. I like the addition of Yaguchi's reflection in the shot when you're facing Yuka. Quite nice. It's a nice realistic touch, because whenever you sit opposite somebody on a tube, I always hate looking at myself. I always feel like I can see myself in the reflections. I hate that. It's nice to have that addition there. Yuka sadly getting more stress when we initially hit the inn. I was really nervous that the innkeeper was gonna turn him away or something, but thankfully he doesn't. He actually ends up being quite a nice guy who gets them breakfast in the morning, but it's just that little bit of stress when we come across the idea of identity once again. Another worrying point is Yaguchi's stress rash. The rash I was starting to eye with a bit of suspicion. My concerns came true. I was so nervous, and I'll talk about it at the end because it's what I was predicting was gonna happen. This stress rash is getting worse, and obviously it's going untreated, which is very, very bad, and he should have been putting at least some kind of cream on it right at the start. It's only when Yuka draws attention to it and actually sees it that we realise the actual severity of how bad the rash has actually gotten. The sound of the sea either being calming to Yuka or absolutely terrifying to poor Yaguchi, who starts to panic and doesn't like the idea of things being taken away or destroyed. But to Yuka, it's just calming. It's nice to see how to each person it is very different, that simple sound. I did think it was quite a nice addition. I was listening for the ocean, and when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's a very nice touch. They've actually added that in, because you're near the ocean, you probably would be able to hear it lapping on the beach. But I did panic when Yaguchi wakes up and Yuka wasn't there. I was like, oh no, this is it. This is actually going to be a very serious anime episode, and it's going to be bad. And no, thankfully, Yuka is on the beach, and I'm happy that they are down there. But it really did worry me because Yuka was just staring into the sea. But you can see with Yaguchi, he is aware something's up. His face, I think, kind of shows that he's aware that something's going on. And he does actually bravely approach the topic. So big kudos to him to try and actually talk about it. And then I think kind of gets very heavy. So we go into quite a heavy conversation, because obviously we're talking about someone's life and the idea of dying. And obviously it's a very sensitive topic and a very realistic topic that the anime is trying to break down. If you are embarrassed by the fact that you're going to die naked, that means you're not ready to die. I believe it's the idea of, if you don't even care, if you're not even bothered by the fact that you're naked anymore, fine with the idea of being found naked, it means that you've given up. You don't care anymore. If you are still getting embarrassed about the idea that you're going to be naked, it means you care. And I think that's what this little section means. Yaguchi is embarrassed by the idea of being naked, so that means that he cares, or he's holding enough gravitas that he's not yet ready to give up on everything. This scene is powerful. I think it's really powerful. It's the idea of facing yourself in complete earnest. The idea of really taking a look at yourself. There's no hiding behind clothes, no hiding behind anything. Life model sessions in general are very informative. I've sat through one when I was taking art as well. It allows you to get used to the idea of shapes, how the body is conformed, all the lines that you see. And I think a life model class is actually very informative. I do fully recommend them if you are studying art or anything. Knowledge of actually understanding the lines and how a real human body is shaped and formulated is going to stick with you when you go into art and you go into draw things. Really like the lighting during this section. It's very moody and atmospheric. Also picking up on that very awkward vibe at first when, well, we're going to take our clothes off now. Very slowly get more and more comfortable with the idea. So we start settling in as they start to talk about it. We get to learn about the reasons why Yuka took Japanese art, and it was for what I thought it would be the case. They took it because their grandmother really likes it. They wanted to impress their grandmother. The grandmother is the one person who actually accepts Yuka for Yuka, the one who was there trying to cling to the pieces and try not to throw everything out and actually cares about how they feel. So Yuka took the Japanese topic. It was important to them. The whole scene is a very human scene. It really brings everything back down. Yuka as a human, somebody who actually says, I'm not a natural talent, just like you, just like Yaguchi. I have strengths, I have weaknesses, and one of the weaknesses is can't stay focused, your inability to actually stay focused on anything. With Yaguchi, who's powering ahead, always focusing and always drawing, Yuka can't do that. Yuka will draw something and then or lose interest or just stop. Yuka also doesn't know what it is that they want to do, which can be a hindrance because you don't know what you're aiming for. If you don't know what you're aiming for, you're floundering around, jumping to piece, not actually having a clear path. It's a very human scene. I wasn't expecting the anime episode to take the route that it did, but it definitely made sense. Both of them literally are bare at this point. Nobody is hiding behind anything. Apart from a screen to divide them, they are able to face their own selves because they're looking in the mirror. They're doing a self-reflection thing where they're looking at themselves as themselves. You've got to accept what it is you see. This is what you're seeing. It allows us to tell the truth. Nice to just hear them talking without anything holding them back. That it got way too much and Yuka finally just decided that they didn't want to go home. They just didn't want to go home, and they start to open up about their own fears and their realistic worries because they are simply human. Even if somebody appears very, very confident, if you talk to them, you will find out probably that they've got their own fears and they've got things that they struggle on too. Yaguchi does 2 pieces this week, and the first of which is the drawing of his self-life model image, a life portrait of himself. It's a very raw piece. It's raw, and the fact that he's incorporating colours too is quite nice. I also like the shading as well because he's getting some great tones. I really think he's improving with his tones. Hopefully as well, this is going to be incorporated into his exam, but we'll talk about the exam a little bit later on. But overall, I really am hoping that Yuka is at least in a better place mentally. Just even a little bit after this whole adventure. Yuka still has to go home and face everything again. If nothing changes, Yuka's still going to be in that frame of mind. So I really hope that Yuka is able to go back, face it, and something is able to change. I like the line where Yaguchi is saying, well, if I fail, it's my fault. If I pass, that's on me. I like that because it's taking responsibility that Yaguchi's not going to blame anybody. If his decision to go along, therefore if he fails, it really is on him, and I like that. And those words also resonate quite nicely with Yuka. The piece that created after the whole affair is absolutely gorgeous. I really like the lighting and the angles and the tones. I love the fact as well that it doesn't use black for shading and shadow. As I once said about my art class, black for shadows and black in the painting was banned. You couldn't use it because the art teacher didn't want you to. You had to use tones and colour because black is an absence of colour. Even black trousers, most people notice that they eventually go blue eventually. It's a colour that you really shouldn't be using because it will flatten out your work. And the way you see it in this piece is he uses the colour brown and he gradients it. So it really does carry across a nice tone and expression. It's a very nice sequence, and the idea of being naked really is just probably the tip top for accepting yourself and able to face yourself because you are literally bearing everything and you're vulnerable. You are not able to hide behind anything. There's nothing covering you up. You are you. And I really like the idea that the anime took for them both to do the life class. Even though they're technically not physically naked in front of each other, they still show their final pieces to one another. You are still basically showing them your body or your interpretation of what you've seen. As Oba says, it's accepting the good things and the bad things. We do get a bit of information that Yuka on the way back stated that they were going to make some clothes, which I think is really nice because this is maybe accepting themselves as well. There's nothing better than looking at yourself and then trying to put clothes on top of it. Building up, you've got your base where you've got a nude model and then you're going to throw some clothes on top of it and try and work from there. We also did note that in the artwork for Yuka, they were really good at focusing on Western design. Quite interesting to see if the clothes that come from that turns into a more Western design, maybe abandoning the Japanese thing that wasn't really making them happy. And as much as they did it for their grandmother, Yuka was actually succeeding quite nicely in more Western designs. The second exam is upon us. It's going to be a 3-day event of extreme stress and tolls. And the thing I initially said right at the start was, I don't think Yaguchi's gonna pass. It was just a big gut feeling that maybe it would be a bit weird for someone like him to suddenly pass first time round. I'm used to in animes like this, and this always happens in animes. I always jump to this trope, whether it was anime which came a few seasons ago with the rhythm gymnastics, and I told you, literally on the day, the guy sprains his ankle, I think it's his wrist. And obviously with rhythm gymnastics, they do a lot of flips. They use their hands. That happens the day of the most important event. And it seems we're going to go the same way because Yaguchi's stress rash has got to the point where it's causing eye issues. And I'm thinking that's eye strain. Whether he's going to eventually need glasses or not, I don't know. It gets even worse when the class has to lug their luggage up 8 flights of stairs. Feels really bad that the class is being made to do that. I do think that's a little bit bad because there's going to be people there who can't. They can't lug it, or they have asthma, or they've got medical conditions that won't allow them to carry things up the staircase. Yaguchi literally has to lug 10 kilos up 8 floors of stairs. And of course, that ends up with him collapsing to the floor. And whether it's eye strain, whether it's the fact that his rash has gotten to the point when it's bad, I can't see his actual rash affecting his eyesight. I do think he's got eye strain. But it was my biggest worry that something would occur that would make him unable to even enter the exam due to either his health or being stuck at the beach. I was really worried that they were going to miss the train or he wasn't going to make it in time for the exam. Is it even possible that he may not even make it to the top of the staircase, let alone 3 days of extreme stress? Very nervous to see what happens next week. For some reason, I just don't have the feeling that he's going to pass. I don't know what it is. It's been with me for quite a while. I just feel like he's not going to pass the exam first time. If he does, I'm going to be so proud of him. But I also am not going to raise my hopes too high that it's going to occur because, especially with this week's ending, I'm very worried about Yaguchi. Nervous to see what occurs next week because even if he takes some time out or something, or he has to take a nap or something, that's time out of his 3 days of work. I can't wait to see what happens next time. I will join you guys hopefully next week for another breakdown on Blue Period. Make sure you guys are taking your care of yourselves. Stress is a reality. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.